This week on Two Guys Who Dive, what does my wife look like in scuba gear? What makes you a diver? Anticipating the Lumia 900. And are Scuba Dog and Scuba Bob breaking up? It's all coming up next on Two Guys Who Dive. From Del Rio, Texas, Rob Wade and Robert Garza. Two Guys Who Dive. This episode of Two Guys Who Dive was recorded Saturday, 24 March 2012. Episode 8, Diving Makes You a Diver. And here we are back again.
Hello, Rob.
How's it going, Robert?
It's going good.
Well, you didn't bike over this time.
No.
So you look more relaxed and refreshed. Last time you were racing back and forth every chance you got to get in front of the air conditioner.
Well, the thing is,
cool
I didn't know how long it was going to take me to ride over here, so I kind of was rushing. I made it in 8 minutes, which was record time.
That's amazing.
But yeah, I was a little winded. Just a smidge.
But it's good exercise. I know you're getting yourself ready for the new dive season, and of course, getting ready for to get through your dive master certification.
Yes.
Definitely a demanding course.
Yes.
But looking forward to that. Well, I'd like to start off by apologizing to those of you who were hoping to catch our podcast on YouTube last week. I did not hit the record button, so as a result, we got no recording from last week.
Did we record now?
Yeah, we are recording now.
All right, great.
Yes, all systems are go. So hopefully then those who didn't get to catch this episode or aren't able to stick around for the entire episode, you can catch it later, download it to your favorite smartphone or MP3 player. And enjoy it that way. So we're looking forward to that. So we got a number of things on tap for this week. A couple things we'll kind of rehash from last week, simply because I'd like to get those on the recorded version of the episode.
Yeah.
Number of things that we have on tap for this week are, you may have noticed, we had a new start to the show.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Found a site that does really well, flixpress.com. Should have created a lower third graphic to give them some free publicity here.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, they do a really good job. They have some great templates, and they also will do custom type stuff, which is really cool. But as you see, it looks very professional, and you just basically it's plug and play. You just put in the information you want. You can get do different templates that have pictures that you can add to it, or just text like this was. So we're excited to kind of step the level of the production up a bit each time. I'm learning more about the whole podcasting bit, and we're just having a great time as we go along here. So up on our agenda for this week, we're going to be covering a few things. The title of the episode is Diving Makes You a Diver. I've been posting a lot on my Facebook page here lately about the challenges in a little border town like Del Rio of getting available divers. So the point, and you've heard us say this a number of times on previous podcasts, that a certification card means you can dive, but diving makes you a diver. And it's important to realize that you will not keep those skill sets up unless you dive. So we'll be talking a little bit about that. And speaking of the skills, we'll be I'll be discussing the PADI performance standard of the 20 skill sets, and kind of giving you those who are not divers but are interested. You may have a lot of preconceptions or misconceptions about what the challenges are for diving, so we'll be talking a little bit about that. And we'll be recapping again a little bit of our the Curacao dive trip that we had last season. So we would definitely want to share that with you. And then a little bit of something on the new tech segment. But first off, because I know that those who were watching last week were listening or watching in anticipation, I mentioned that we were going to have a special guest. And our first segment this week is talking about basically a live demonstration of the gear. And I don't mean we're going to fill up the studio with water and have somebody go diving. That would be impractical.
That would be nice.
Be impractical and quite messy. But just to give you an idea, up close and personal, firsthand, what the gear looks like on, and demonstrating this for us will be my lovely wife and dive buddy, Tara Wade. So if you want to come in to camera view here. There we go. There she is. She's modeling for us a beautifully crafted and wonderfully colored
deep sea wetsuit.
Deep sea wetsuit. It's of course the female design. They do actually make men's and women's wetsuits because obviously men and women are built differently. And Tara prefers the front zipper type because it's much easier to get into. You basically just step into it and zip it up. Those are definitely easier to get into, but the more common one that you see is the one that zips from behind. So now that's part of your personal gear. Now what we also call the personal gear would be your mask, your fins, and your snorkel. Those are the things that you would come to the class with owning already. And now we will be providing for your use during the class the BC tanks and weights and computer and regulators, and so we're going to help Tara get into her gear. This is the equipment that she's chosen pretty painstakingly. We did a lot of driving around and having her try on a number of pieces of gear. Specifically, the items that are going to be closest to you, like the buoyancy control the compensator, because you need to be comfortable in it. You don't want to feel like you're swimming in it. I mean that it moves when you don't.
Or too restrictive.
Or too restrictive. You don't want something that's going to cut off your circulation. Or for women, because they do make gear specifically designed for women, you don't want something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable either in the chest area or because women typically have higher hips, the generic or men's BCs tend to come down lower. So they're very uncomfortable when you're trying to move and navigate in the water. So I'm going to go off microphone here and headset and help Tara on with the gear. So Robert, if you want to step in, I'll let you take control while I help her out.
Okay. All right, Robert now is going to go ahead and assist her with putting on her BC. In case you're not a diver and you're not really aware of this, the gear can weigh. It is a little heavy, so sometimes you will require assistance getting into it if you're out of the water, like Robert is demonstrating. Your octopus is under your Velcro. Oh. There you go. See, and that's why you always want to dive with a buddy or somebody helping you assist. And she is checking all the latches and what would you call those? The latches to make sure that they're all loose and everything's fitted. And your primary is underneath your Velcro there.
No.
I'm sorry, I just really saw that.
Okay, anything else?
I think that's it. I think that's it. All right, just reattaching everything. All right.
Okay, well, we do a 360 turnabout so you can describe.
Okay. Obviously, since she is a female, she does have a pink tank. They do come in different colors. You can get them. My favorite color is purple, but I think Robert, he beat me to the purple tank. He got it, I think, or I'm not sure if he got it or not, but it's purple also. Got a tank. It's tied down with a strap that's actually attached to the BC, so this thing will not fall out. It's not supposed to. It depends on how tight you put it on there. Some people tend to kind of not get it so tight and it'll slip out, which is something that we can experience in the water. Don't panic. You can adjust it. If you have a dive buddy, you can go ahead and they'll assist you in reattaching it, tightening it down. If not, You can do it yourself. It's one of the skill sets. You take off your BC and adjust your gear, and then put it back on underwater. But we'll talk about that in a little bit later. The BC has a pouch right here for trim weight. It's kind of hard to see it right now in the video, but it is right there. Most BCs have it. We came to find out when Robert and I were diving the spring, when we were assisting the city with a little bit of problem they were having at the springs. We couldn't locate mine. They're actually hidden inside the BC, which is kind of weird, but anyway. As you can tell up here, it's connected. You have your first stage. It's connected to the tank, to the valve of the tank, and she's got her hoses that are running over here along the side, which drop down. You have the power inflator hose, which is right there. She's holding it up. Okay, and has a little button. When you press it, it does inflate the BC, which is hers has the bladder around the whole BC. It's not a back inflate, which Rob discussed last week. This tends to put the air evenly around the jacket, as opposed to just only in the back. As he described, sometimes if it only inflates the back, it'll lunge you forward into the water face first. With this one, it's a little more practical and a lot easier to swim in. Yeah, and then of course it has the release valve. And she dives with a number of little, I would call them necessities. She has a retractor, because you don't want your gear flaying around in the water, because if you're diving in the open ocean, you can actually hit coral and things like that. You always want to kind of slimline your gear, have everything close to you. You don't want it dangling around. So she travels with one of those, and of course, most important, she does have a knife. Gotta have a knife on there. These little things you see dangling out here, these are actually her weight pouches. Okay, they're Velcro. So she's going to go ahead and insert them into her BC, as she's demonstrating right there. Right, you go ahead and you put your weights inside of these pouches in case, and then they Velcro into the jacket. Some snap, the version that I have snaps on. The version that Robert has, they snap on. These actually have Velcro. This is, by having these weight pouches, it is a weight integrated BC, buoyancy control. There are some that aren't weight integrated, so you would dive with a weight belt. You would attach the weight. It's actually to a belt. It's exactly what it is, a weight belt. All right, see what else. And there we go. Okay, what Tara is going on and slipping over her head right there is her octopus, which is an alternate air source in the event that she has failure from her primary regulator. She can use that for breathing, or if in case her dive buddy, or somebody that maybe not even a dive buddy, but just somebody that's diving as well, has catastrophic failure and they need air, she can automatically just go ahead and give that, and she's breathing off of that. It tends to rattle when it's not in the water sometimes, so don't panic. Okay, don't panic. It does that. And it's attached to a lanyard. Robert did discuss this also last week. He tends to feel more comfortable when it's closer to him, because you can grab it, and if again, it is closer to his mouth. So if his fails, he knows exactly where it is. He doesn't have to reach down. All he's got to do is just grab from his neck and straight into his mouth. So it does serve some function. Of course, it is pink. It's they have different colors. Okay, now over here we have some storage. The jacket actually has pockets. Most BCs will have a pocket right here. It's for storage. When it's inflated, it's a little hard to get into, but okay, there we go. It opens up, and it's a pretty big pocket. It's the size of the actual from here to here, so it's from where Robert's hand is going in to right there. And then of course we got a backup light. We got a BC light, which is great. It's always good to dive with a light, especially a backup light. You can never have too many. I dive with 2. Robert, I think, dives with 1. Or do you dive with two, Rob?
No, I dive with two.
Okay, but
During the day, I only dive with my BC.
okay. Well, I have one attached to my BC, and then I have one inside the pocket. Again, Rob makes fun of me, but I'm weird that way. And some BCs, depending on the style and version of the jacket, it will be longer. It'll be deeper on average for the men, since they are longer. Like he mentioned earlier, the pockets are deeper. You can put more stuff in there. I carry all kinds of trinkets in there, and cat food and dog food and everything. Now, what else, Rob?
I think that's it as far as major components just showing.
Oh yeah. Now, and on this side, she also has her computer, which is a really nice computer. Has your pressure gauge right here for the air pressure. And then of course is the computer, and then when you rotate it around, it's got a compass. You don't want to get lost in the water. And this is a really actually nice slim computer set. Mine is actually longer. It's troublesome. I kind of like this. This is a really nice one. And it even has a little temperature gauge. It's 80 degrees in here, so you know Tara's hot in her neoprene. There you go. But yeah.
I'm going to go help her out, so if you want to
Okay.
continue talking about the gear.
As they're slipping off the set there. Very good. Like we mentioned earlier in the other segments, there is a lot of gear out there, depending on what's your fancy and what you typically are looking for. We had this discussion earlier in the week about diving and getting your own gear, and it's one of the topics I think we're going to discuss here in a little while about getting your own gear. When you have your own gear, you tend to typically dive a little bit more than you would if you didn't. Of course, here in Del Rio, you may not have an actual. We don't have a dive store to where you can go and rent gear. Well, we used to, but we don't anymore. But Robert has he's got quite an array of gear that you can use. So it's never a reason for you to stop or think about not wanting to dive. Not owning your gear, we can take care of that, or Robert can actually take care of that for you. So please don't fear like if you don't have your gear, you can't dive, because you can. Well, let's see what else, Rob.
Oh no, you're doing good. I'll just put it on cruise control at this point.
But again, women's gear is typically a little bit different than men's. Ours is a little, of course, bigger. The pockets are a little bit longer, like I mentioned. You can put more things in there. But Tara's gear is it's average. Her BC is tailor made for a woman's. It has a cross section right here for the upper chest area, designed for a woman. Most men's just have those straps that are down here to where you pull them to adjust the BC. Women can use those and do use them, but if you want to spend, of course, an extra buck or two and get a tailor fitted, or not, I don't want to say tailor because they're not specific. I mean, nobody comes and measures you for them, but
well, you can.
Well,
those get really expensive.
Yeah, exactly, but I mean, what I mean is, go out there and, like Rob mentioned, they went to several shops and were trying on different types of BCs until she found the one that's fit her perfect, and then he went ahead and purchased it for her, and it makes all the difference. If you're uncomfortable with wearing gear or a specific type of equipment, you're less likely to want to use it.
Exactly.
So, especially if you're having issues or any kind of concerns about even thinking about diving, you got to make sure that you have the equipment that you feel more comfortable in. It may cost you a little bit more, because I think when we first were talking about this, he was like, I spent a little extra money to get her what she wanted because I wanted her to be comfortable.
Actually, a lot extra money.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to scare anybody away, but it's just a little bit.
But I want to make sure she was going to dive. So I'm like, sweetheart, whatever you want.
Whatever you want. And, you know, it had to be functional, and it is for her, and it's perfect for her. And that's ultimately the key. I did the same thing. I tried on different types of gear and was going back and forth. Finally, I stuck with some of the gear that I actually trained on, which is
there you go. Yeah.
Because I felt comfortable with it, and then I went with it, and that's my deal. Some things I I've changed over the years and
Yep, me too.
upgraded, but I did start at a kind of something like the bike that I just bought. I started like a mid-level range bike because I didn't want to start at a low-end bike.
Right.
And then slowly move up. Well, I started with a mid-level regulator. It wasn't by any means cheap. It was a well-constructed, which I still have. And then dealt with that for a little while. And as I got more and more serious about diving and more into the actual activity of it, I felt it was time for me to move up. So, and that's what I did. Saved a couple of my lawn chores checks and went with it. And that's how I tend to relatively do things. I don't necessarily throw things away or put things away. I tend to kind of put them together and make another set. So and that's how I tend to do it. But
Exactly. And I've still got, and I think I mentioned this before too, I've still got all my original gear other than the wetsuits that have long since given up the ghost. But if you take care of it, it does you well. And, this kind of leads us into the next segment, which is diving makes you a diver. I train a number of people every year, not as many as I'd like, but they're always enthusiastic when they go through the course. And I try to encourage them to continue immediately after they get certification. Because here's the danger with everything, like with any other skill that you get. If you don't practice those skills, they're not going to be there for you when you are in a situation where you need them. And Patty, the Dive Instructor Association that I am certified to instruct through, is similar to all the other agencies in that there are approximately 20 skill sets that they all have you master in order to get certified. They can be challenging to some extent. For some of them are very simple, and you're wondering, well, why do I need to know this? And I explain all of that to you during the course. But the bottom line is, if you don't get out there and dive regularly, you lose your edge on the skills, and your enthusiasm for the sport starts to drop off because, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is, do I remember how to do that? It's like trying to drive. If you went through the driver's ed course and then got your license and then you didn't drive the car for years afterward, how confident would you be getting behind the wheel and getting out in 70-mile-an-hour traffic?
In a freeway.
Oh, yeah. Or going through downtown San Antonio, navigating that mess. How confident are you going to be? And are you going to be likely to do it? You're going to you drive. And I've seen that before. So one of the things I try to stress with students is get out there and dive immediately. I'll dive, that's why my nickname's Scuba Dog, because I'll dive with anybody. Anytime, anywhere, I'll dive. I like to dive. It almost can be the worst water possible to dive in, and I'll dive, almost. But that's how ready I am to go diving, and that's because I enjoy it just for the experience of being underwater. I don't necessarily have to see a bunch of colorful fish or whatever. It'd be nice to see something, but I can usually find something of interest to look at some point during the dive. But it's just the sheer experience of weightlessness, being able. It's like flying. It's just an amazingly calm exercise, enjoyable sport. But the problem is, I cannot tell you how many students we've seen come through the pipe that they're all very enthusiastic when they get through it. They're overcoming some challenges, like, oh, I never thought I'd be able to do this, or boy, the mask clearing was giving me a challenge, but boy, I feel so much better about it. I know that I can do it. I now understand so much more about the physics of what's going on underwater, what's happening to my body. With water pressure, etc. They come away with all this experience, and then they never touch it again.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that Patty tries to get across is the 3 E's, and that's education, equipment, and experience. And the more I teach, the more I dive with people, the more I see that's true. Obviously, you get the education piece. That's the courses that you take. And then you follow that up with getting your gear. You've got to get the equipment. If you don't get the equipment, then what happens is you find yourself totally relying on somebody else, whether that's a dive shop or a dive buddy who happens to have a spare set of gear, which is really how I started. I started with somebody who had a second set of gear. But if you don't go out and get your equipment, then your enthusiasm is quickly going to waver. You're going to wait until, oh, well, we've got a dive trip coming up, or we're going on vacation and I may get a dive in. Let's see if we can get, pay $250 or whatever, and take a boat out to some reef or whatever. So you rent your gear for that time, and you're like, okay, now do I remember how the gear went together? Do I remember the skills? And you're green, and you're worried more about remembering your skills than you are about actually enjoying the reason why you got the certification in the first place. So then you go, you finish your dive, and it was like, okay, yeah, that was pretty cool. And then it's a year or 2 or 3 before you go out and do it again, and your enthusiasm continues to waver. So you're less likely to spend the money to go out and get the gear. And so you then don't get the experience, and so pretty soon that certification that you paid for, that you overcame your own personal obstacles to acquire, to achieve, is now virtually useless to you because you don't do it. And so we kind of look at each other funny when we shoot each other a kind of a knowing glance when somebody says, they see our dive card, or they see our gear, they see the dive sticker, or something like that, or we're talking about it and say, hey, I'm a diver. Okay, the first thing we're thinking is, okay, do you have a C card, or are you a diver? Because
because you always ask,
well,
when was your last dive? And that's very common for him, to ask. And well, it's about 5 years ago.
I'm like, and I'm in my head, I'm saying, you're not a diver. You're certified to dive, but you're not a diver. So, it's kind of like flying an aircraft. You can go through all of that training to get your wings, to get your general aviation's license if you're going for general aviation. And then you don't get an aircraft. You don't have or get hired to be somebody's personal pilot or whatever. Then how confident are you going to be, and how confident, if somebody says, I'm a pilot, oh, really? How many hours you logged? When was the last time you flew? Yeah. I want to know those things. If I'm going to get up in that aircraft with you, I want to know that you've been...
I haven't flown in 5 years.
Yeah. I think I'll take the bus. Thank you very much.
And the last time I flew, I didn't have a good landing.
Yeah, really. It was a 3-point landing. Bounce, bounce, bounce. Yeah. So... diving is the same thing, and it potentially has the same dangers, same kinds of dangers as flying, in that, your ascents and descents must equal each other, and you need to both need to be pretty good.
You're right.
So it's important to keep those skills up. So that's why it's important. I cannot stress enough for those of you who got certified, whether it's recently or years ago. Go out and get your gear. Even if you get one piece at a time or get a low-end basic package, you can get a basic package, the BC. Basically, other than the tank, you can get the very equipment that you saw Tara wearing here just a few minutes ago. You can get a basic setup, no extra frills to it, for $400, $500.
Yeah.
Okay? Not much more than what you paid for. Actually, probably about what you paid for the course, depending on where you went. Once you bought your own personal gear and then paid for the course itself, you will have spent just about that same amount for a basic set of gear, and that will get you to where you can go diving. Then all you have to do is find a buddy. And if you were really smart about it and went through the course with somebody who was potentially going to be your dive buddy, and you both plan to do that, then there's no reason not to. The PADI website, PADI.com, has a locator, if you will, that you can use to find out, well, what are the diving opportunities in the area where I'm at or where I'm going. If you're going somewhere for vacation, well, what dive opportunities are there? You don't have to go to the coast or to the Caribbean or to Fiji or Australia to get some diving experience or to have a good dive. You can dive in rivers if they're not really fast. You can dive in lakes. You can dive in ponds. You can dive in springs. I mean, there's just so many opportunities. In Del Rio, most people that are aware of diving, they immediately think of the lake. But you can dive in San Felipe Creek here, which is, 8 to 10 feet in its deepest spots. And there's some areas that kind of move pretty quick. But, we've done it almost every year as part of the cleanup, the citywide cleanup. Yeah. And it's as much fun as it is work. It's an opportunity to experience diving in a different environment.
And if anybody's listening as far as the cleanup, they haven't done it in a couple of years.
Yes, City of Del Rio.
Yeah, and that's one thing. It's beneficial, and it helps the city. It gets all the trash out of the creeks. A lot of the kids are swimming. Some of the stuff that we've actually brought up from the creek,
life-threatening stuff.
Very, very life-threatening. Robert and I were diving at one of the springs, and I got cut with a rusted can. I immediately had to go get a tetanus shot. Yep. But some of the things that I've seen where kids are jumping into the water at the creek, and these kids are swimming. I went bike riding a few days ago, and the kids were just jumping into the water, and it's kind of dusk. It's dark. Yeah. It's already getting dark around the time when I was riding, and the kids are jumping in. They have no idea what's under the water, what's under the hydrilla that's there. We pulled out this board with nails just sticking straight up. Yeah. I mean, all over. The whole board was covered with nails, and they were rusted. Yeah. That thing could have easily hurt anybody, and it was right off where they jump in. That bothered me. It bothered me because these kids are just looking for something to do, having fun, and there always has to be some knucklehead.
And they should be able to.
Right, and there always has to be some knucklehead that just throws their crap into the water, and it's crazy. Yeah. So, if anybody from the city's watching, we need to get the city cleanup going back.
We're talking to you.
Yeah, we need to get the city back involved into the cleanup because I
have to admit, the previous mayor and his wife were very
advocates about that.
Very enthusiastic about that, and I appreciate their support in pushing that. And it was fun for us to get fellow divers interested in being able to clean up an area that in a way that no other group could do.
So, some of the stuff that's in the water, and the reason that we can dive on our own and go in there and get it out ourselves, we don't need like Rob said, permission. We just have to be aware of the hydrilla because we can't damage that. We were told we can't do that. But some of the stuff is heavy, and it's buried under, because there is current, so there's a lot of mud and all kinds of stuff, trees and everything that you can think of. Anyway, so we need equipment to be able to pull this stuff out of the water. So it requires a tractor, a backhoe, whatever you want to call it. So we need the city involved to do these kind of activity or these kind of projects, and that's why we're trying to. If you know anybody out there, please call and see if we can get the mayor to get this going again, because we're just trying to help, and that's what we want to do is try to help and take care of these places. There's some people that don't care for them, and we do.
Yeah, we do. So. And to bring it full circle, it is a fun place to get some experience diving in because the water is constant temperature. Because it's spring fed, it's 74, 76 degrees year round. So you can actually dive there in the dead of winter. As a matter of fact, those who are familiar with the area, during the winter, oftentimes when it gets really cold, you drive across the bridge, you see steam coming off. I mean, it creates its own weather system. It's gargantuan. No. It creates these a fog across that you can't see, almost as a driving hazard, because that water is so warm constantly compared to the air temperature during the winter. So it's a good place to just kind of, you know what, I want to spend a little bit of time underwater. Now, getting out of the water is a totally different.
Well, we can't help you with that.
That is. You better make sure you have something warm to jump into, because it's when it's 45, 50 degrees outside and you're climbing out of 74, 75 degree water into that, you're just like, it's really cold.
You will feel shrinkage.
Yeah, it'll be a little tear will be shed because you're cold, so cold. So, but that's that just is another place that you can dive here in the area. And of course, in the surrounding area, you've got Lakey, you've got the Frio River, you've got
where's that?
Balmaray's
just around the corner.
Yeah.
There are a lot of places you can dive. Like I mentioned earlier, we dove the spring to help the city with a project they had going on, and it was chilly that day.
Yes,
I must admit, I was a little worried.
Glad I was wearing my 7mm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the water itself was warm. In fact, I felt like I was taking a nice warm bath. I really was, and I did not want to get out of the water.
Yeah, no kidding.
I just
kidding.
The wind was terrifying.
But the point is, once you get certified, go out and get the equipment. I or ScubaBob or a number of other divers will be happy to help you pick out a package. We'll be able to kind of steer you away from stuff like all of it is designed to work. They have certain laws and regulations they have to adhere to be functional, because it is life support equipment. But so there's not any brand or model that's absolutely deadly as long as you take care of it. But because all of it is designed as life support. But we can help steer you to inexpensive packages to get you started, with the mindset that as long as you're not going to be doing like extreme diving, which as a brand new certified basic open water diver, you're not going to, right? You're going to be diving in temperate climes, warm water, typically on a cruise or
40, 60 feet max.
Yeah. You're not going to be pushing the envelope, but it's like everything else. You get the equipment, you go out and you get some experience. As you build your experience, you start finding out, you find out where your limitations are, what your strengths are, and you find out, this was kind of uncomfortable after an hour underwater. I wonder if there's something that fits better for me, or I wonder if there's regulator that breathes a little bit easier for me. And you'll talk to other divers. That's something like that we often do is, it's not like that, well, I've got this, but it's, hey, what kind of gear are you using? Or what do you think about that? What do you like? What do you don't like about it? If you had to do it again, would you get that model or go with the next one up or down? Or, you exchange that information, so you say, okay, well, what, I've got this regulator, but I'd really like that regulator. And so you go out and you upgrade a piece of equipment. And you can work your way up to better equipment as you go.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, when I got my gear, I started with a certain level, and
right.
I didn't have to do that. I mean, I chose to do that. And I didn't ultimately just dive into something real expensive, into the the higher end regulators that are out there.
But it wasn't the bottom.
It wasn't at the bottom
either.
of the. Yeah, it wasn't.
It was good stuff.
It was right there, and yeah, I did pay a little bit for it too. It wasn't cheap, but that was my that was my my thing. But after diving for about 3 years, I think it was, I decided it was time for me, because I had already experienced different types of things, done some deep dives, and I had already gone through my advanced and my rescue certification. I felt I was ready, because I wanted to continue to do this into my dive master and hopefully soon instructor.
Right.
I started already looking at different things that worked for me, and things that I was already looking forward to using. So I made the jump. I made the jump to more the top of the line regulator for that Aqualung makes, and it was, I went through Aqualung because I've used their equipment and their gear exclusively here, and I just decided to stick with it because it worked. It worked for me, and that's why I stuck with it, because it worked. It and that's the only reason. But you'll have people out there that you can this regulator is much better, or there's different brands out there that are better.
Right.
But they're just more expensive. They do the same thing my regulator does at $300 or $400 more than what I paid for it. So why would you want to invest those $300? You can put it into something else.
Exactly.
So you kind of have to start thinking that in that aspect. You will have people out there that will be,
right.
Oh, you have that, or like Robert said.
I didn't like that because whatever.
Yeah, well, you know what? I didn't like the color. It didn't fit right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are people out there that are that way, and you just kind of have to shrug them off and say, you know what? It works for me, so if that works for you, then that's great. That's good. And just continue to move on from that.
Right. Exactly. So, like I said, you can get a decent set of equipment for $400 or $500, and work
Good
your way.
equipment.
Decent equipment, and work your way up from there. But at least you'll have the equipment, because the frustrating thing I ran into today, for those who happen to be following the Facebook chat I had going today, I was kind of lamenting the fact that we had a gorgeous day today in Del Rio. I mean, it was 90 degrees, and I have not been diving in wells other than the experience over at the Springs for a couple of months, and it's just killing me to have an opportunity to, like today, and not be able to go diving. So I put the call out. I tried to find somebody who would dive, and it's like nobody was available. And part of it is because I don't have connection with all the possible divers that there are in Del Rio, but the fact that all the people that I've certified, or that I know that come through that are certified divers, most of those folks don't have their own gear. A large part of them have families. Of course, there's the obligations of family and things like that. So they don't have the availability of just on a whim just saying, oh, you know what? I'm not really doing anything right now, and I really would like to go diving. Not a lot of people have that freedom. I do, because we have no kids. We have 4 fur kids, dachshunds, love them to death. But the nice thing is we can put some food and water down and leave them for a weekend without getting arrested by Child Protective Services, which is good.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's important.
Although you can get arrested for misusing your animals.
Yes, but I don't think anybody who knows me would ever accuse us of abusing our animals.
No, by no means.
We probably treat our dogs better than most people treat their kids, which is sad to say.
True.
But that being said, I tend to be able to be more spontaneous than a lot of folks, even as busy as I am, because I've got so many things going on. But that's why having tanks filled at the ready, I have my gear ready to go at any time. So if I've got a couple of hours free and somebody calls and says, hey, can you go diving? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. It's got to be quick, but it might be a shorter dive. But yeah, if I can get the dive in, man, I'm ready to go. But not a lot of people are as enthusiastic as a diver, as what I call a hardcore diver, as ScubaBob and I. Part of that is that cycle that I talked about earlier. They got certified. They're enthusiastic. It's like that honeymoon period, but then they don't go out and get their gear. Or they don't connect with somebody who can get them, can let them use gear. I'll let students, if I'm diving with them, I'll let students use my gear if I'm not teaching a class. So gear to keep your skills up that you just learned should not be the thing that stops you from diving. You've got to want to go out there and do it. Now, on top of that, it's difficult in Del Rio to get a firm nexus point of communication. I try to get people to utilize Facebook and Twitter, those kinds of communications as much as possible, but a lot of folks don't really utilize that to the full extent. We have dive club meetings every month, and we don't see a lot of participation in that. Yeah, I know we're just coming through winter, so a lot of people are like, well, what do you get together for there? Well,
come out and eat, people.
Exactly. A guy's got to eat. You got to have some food. So it's important to to just build that camaraderie. And it might be an opportunity for you to, let's say you're in the market for gear. Maybe one of us who are hardcore divers and we're going through an upgrade, he's like, you know what, I'll sell my old regular. It's perfectly good. It's been serviced and all that stuff. I'll sell that to you for, real cheap price. And so that gets you a piece of gear. There's that kind of networking that you can do by participating. And if you're not a diver, it gives you an opportunity to network with some folks that can share their experiences with you. One of these times, I'll try and get Tara to sit down as a guest, actually on mic, and kind of share the trials and the trail to becoming a certified diver, because she was the not any way in this world are you getting me underwater, to now she's an advanced diver and a very enthusiastic diver. Although I would probably classify her as a little bit of a saltwater snob. She doesn't enjoy diving out at the lake like I do. She'll do it to keep her skills up, and so I absolutely commend her for that. And when we go to places like Balmoral, it's great.
So relaxing.
It is. It's a fantastic place to go. That's why we've got a number of trips lined up this year to go up there. But she is a classic example of to explain to you how you can go from no way to when's the next dive opportunity. So, but that's what we want to try and foster in this area is that there is diving, that we have ways to, even though we've lost both of our dive shops. I've got a compressor, and I'm not trying to advertise that I'm filling tanks for everybody, because I'm just not set up for that. It's not that high a capacity compressor. It's really for me to do it for my students. But, oh, by the way, anybody who gets certified with me, they get a full year of air fills free for me. So all you got to do is go get your gear, and I'll fill your tanks up for free for a year. But go out and dive, because that's what makes you a diver.
Does that include returning students?
Hey, I figure if you paid for the class, you get the deal.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether it's advanced course or rescue diver or whatever. Okay, so that pretty much that brings us to some of the skills that you would need to learn as a part of the course, and we're about 15 minutes away from the end of the episode, but a quick rundown of the 20 skill sets, skills that you need to learn as part of the basic open water dive course are, of course, assembling, adjusting, and then disassembling your gear. Now, you saw, while it can be meticulous, and you'll do it so many times during the class that you'll be like, why do I have to do this again? But it's so that you know how your gear works and is put together. So as you saw how the gear's assembled or put together for that Tara was wearing, it's very easy to put all that together and wear it and adjust it and take it apart. It's very easy. The pre-dive safety check. That's a requirement for it, and a lot of people just let that lapse and don't do it. But it's important to go through that pre-dive safety check where you make sure that everything is connected, everything is placed where it's supposed to be, air is on. You check your buddy out. There's a methodical, very simple process that has you check to make sure every your weight's in place and all your releases are working.
And I gotta honestly say, we have been diving for a great number of years now, or great number of years. It makes it sound like we've been diving for a decade.
I can't tell you how long it's been.
No, we've been diving for a few years, and even we still to this day, we don't do it all the time, but sporadically we'll just let's do a dive check, and we check each other's gear to make sure everything is on and ready to go. So we do still do that, and it's important. It's one of the skill sets that we do. So
well, we do it internally, but sometimes we just maintain the habit of just like let's
calling
actually
it out,
call by the numbers, But you get through the mental process, you go through that, and you take care of it. Then you have a number of different ways of doing a deep water entry, because sometimes you're actually jumping from a boat or a dock into water. You're not just walking from a shore. So you learn how to proper ways to do that so your gear doesn't come flying off you like your mask and that kind of stuff when you hit the water, because it can if you don't do it correctly. How to achieve neutral buoyancy, which is important. You don't want to be sinking uncontrolled or ascending uncontrolled, you want to make sure that wherever you want to be in the water column or on the surface, that you are buoyant to at the point that where you want to be. The snorkel and regulator exchange. When you're on the surface, you will be going through some points where you're swimming along, and you may, to conserve the air that's in your tank, that you'll use your snorkel. Well, then you're getting ready to dive. Well, then one of the parts of the 5-point descent is you switch from snorkel to your regulator, and then you're going to be descending. So being comfortable with that process and how you control your airway so you don't suck in a big bunch of water when you're trying to breathe in is an important skill to know. And I mentioned the 5-point descent, where you basically are going to signal to each other for what you're going to do, what your orientation is, where the boat, the shore is, whether you're doing a feet first descent, or if you're going horizontal and just following the contour of the shore. Switch to your regulator. Note the time, because that's when your dive time actually starts, is when you start your descent. And then you equalize. Typically, most folks will do the Valsalva maneuver, where you hold your nose and kind of put air into your sinus cavity. And then you actually descend. Another skill set is the regulator recovery and clearing. Underwater, you may find that as part of real world or just an exercise, that you have to swap from your primary regulator to your alternate regulator. Well, while you have it out of your mouth, the water is getting into the opening, the mouthpiece of the regulator. Well, you don't want to put that thing in your mouth and then take a big deep breath and be choking on lake water or seawater. So knowing how you can recover it where it's flown behind you and sweeping your arm back to hook the hose and then put it in your mouth and clearing it is an important skill set. It's not difficult, but you'll do it a number of times so that we're sure you know how to do that. We also give you a number of opportunities to experience the mask clearing at different levels. There's a partial mask clearing where typically what would happen, somebody bumps your mask or you smile, and water will get into your mask. Well, you don't want to freak out. The water's in your nose. You can clear it. It's very easy to do, but it kind of freaks people out at first, which is why it's one of the skill sets to help you out. We do a full one, so that if something happened where you actually let water in intentionally, or again the mask got bumped and it got filled with water, or you had to put the mask back on from being knocked off, you know how to clear it. Same thing, so that you are comfortable with the fact that, guess what, water can get in there and you don't have to go screaming to the surface just to clear it. You've got air coming to you from your regulator, from that tank on your back. So as long as you have that, you have a way to deal with all the other issues. Proper ascent using an alternate air source, and by that we either mean your alternate air source that you're wearing or your dive buddy. You may find a case where your equipment fails, or you weren't paying attention, heaven forbid, you weren't paying attention to your air supply, and you run low, and you end up indicating low, or I'm out of air, and you end up sharing air with them and then making your way to the surface, because obviously you would abort your dive.
Done that.
You would abort your dive at that point. And being calm, cool, and collected in those kind of situations is what that skill is about. So you don't freak out. It's like, I can't breathe. Oh, wait a minute, my buddy's got air. Here we go. We're going to the surface. No problem. Air depletion exercise. So that you know what that feels like, we actually give you the experience. We turn off your air so you can feel what that is like as it becomes harder to pull air through the regulator. Now, hopefully you would never experience that in the real world, but knowing the signs of it is like, okay, now if it's getting harder to pull air out of this thing, oh wow, I'm low on air, or I'm out of air. So it's an important experience, part of the class. Of course, free-flowing regulator. Regulators are designed very, very well. They will not typically fail. If they fail at all, they're not going to fail by not giving you air. That's going to be an air in your tank issue. They will fail in the free flow position, meaning that they're not waiting for you to begin the process by inhaling. They're just letting air out. Now, obviously, your air gauge is going to go right down to zero pretty quick, and so you would want to be making your way to the surface. But you don't have to freak out because all the air is escaping out of the regulator. You can sip the air off of it while you're working your way up. or trying to find your dive buddy, whichever the more appropriate case is. Achieving neutral buoyancy, both using the power inflator, which you saw my wife pushing the button for as a power inflator, or orally. You can actually breathe in through that same tube, exhaling from take a breath from a regulator, and you can exhale into that tube and actually put air in your BC to maintain neutral buoyancy. So if your power inflator, for some reason, stopped functioning, you could still control neutral buoyancy. Now, obviously, again, if you have a failure of any piece of equipment, you want to be working your way to the surface, but you would know by the end of the course how to control your buoyancy, even if your power inflator stopped working for some reason. 5-point ascent, again, it's all about signaling your intentions, making sure that you're properly positioned for ascent. You don't want to just come swimming to the surface without making sure that your head doesn't bang something on the way up. And you want to make sure that you're letting air out of your BC as you come up, because otherwise that air expands as you come up, and you'll just Polaris out of at the surface, which is not good. How to control your weight system: remove, replace your weights underwater at the surface, because you may have to make adjustments, or you may get one knocked out, or it may fall out. That happens. And so knowing, okay, I can fix this. This is an issue I can fix. It's a part of the skill. Controlled emergency swimming ascents. If you could not get to your dive buddy, one of the ways that you can rescue yourself is you can do what is called the CESA, or the Controlled Emergency Swimming Ascent. And this is an ability to, basically, again, with the what we call the Superman position, just a nice normal pace. You don't want to go up too fast, is work your way to the surface, but you're just exhaling slowly out and making an ah sound as you get to the surface, so that way you know that you're not holding your breath and creating potentially a lung expansion injury, or embolism, or a number of other injuries that can happen from that kind of situation. Knowing that you're not going to panic because you have a way to the surface safely is gold, is worth gold. Hovering, again, that's all. Hovering underwater, there's a number of ways you can do it, but basically it's that neutral buoyancy, controlling underwater. No mask, swim, replace, and clear. If you got your mask knocked off, or the strap broke and it fell off, what would you do? Knowing how to deal with that situation is like, you know what? The air still works even though my mask isn't on. Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yep.
So knowing that you don't have to freak out, it's disconcerting, yeah, but you don't have to freak out if you lose your mask. You can swim without it. Removal and replacement of your gear on the surface and underwater. Now, removing and replacing on the surface is fairly common if you're diving off a boat. A lot of times what the dive master or the boat captain will have you do is hand up your gear, or parts of your gear, like your weights, etc., before you climb onto the boat. Depends on the type of the boat and what their process is. But underwater, if you are diving around something, get your gear snagged on something, and your buddy's not immediately available to help you get unsnagged, then realizing that you can still breathe off your gear and climb out of it. So you see your gear from third person, you can clear whatever it is, you can cut free fishing line or whatever, and then slip back into your gear and continue to your dive. You don't have to freak out. It's like, I'm stuck. Well, wait a minute. You got air. You got time. So fix the issue. So that's a very quick overview of the skills that you learn, but these are all things that are going to be important to keep up practice after you get certified. So I can't stress enough that you should really get out there, get your gear, and dive a lot, especially after you get certified. There are a number of us who want to dive at any opportunity we can. So we're just about out of time. I wanted to hit just a little bit of the Curacao video that we showed last week. So this time we'll get it recorded. Here we go. Yeah. This was an awesome trip. This gives you an idea why we really do this, to see things like this. I mean, it's just awesome.
I think I asked you about the music. Did you dub that, or was that? I
did not, and I tell you, although this one isn't too bad, but some of the other ones that the guy that did this picked were like, okay. I was like, well, he was not from America. You know, Curacao is a little island off the coast of Venezuela. I think this guy was from Argentina or Brazil, and had awesome cameras, you could tell. But the music he picked out, I think it was like, oh, you're American, you like this. You know, he's like picking something and thought we like, there's me. See, I hardly move underwater. I've got very good buoyancy control. Just so much fun stuff to look at.
You go through all the trouble getting certified to dive. Why would you not want to do this?
Exactly, I know. Even if you only get to go to places like this once a year, once a couple of years, but you still go out and like Lake Amistad or San Felipe Creek and just go out and dive. Keep your skills up. There's my lovely wife, Tara. See her very, very bright fingernail polish. It just glowed. So anyway, that's just a little bit of the Curacao trip. I got a couple of pictures I'll throw up here of how beautiful the island is.
At night.
Yeah, well, during the day, here's where the view from our room. This was awesome. And the thing about one of the big attractions of Curacao is the shore diving is awesome everywhere. I mean, we didn't even come close to scratching the surface on the shore diving that was out there. Most of our stuff was boat diving, although we did go diving out in off of our area, and you see how gorgeous that is. And where you see it gets dark there, that's where it drops off to the reef area. So I mean, it's just a quick swim out there, and you're just enjoying some awesome diving. But so we definitely want to go back because there's so much shore diving that we could do. We could skip the boat dives and just shore dive the whole time. Just rent a vehicle and go. It's gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Now, going into the town, Willemstad, you see their buildings are very, very colorful because they have their culture is from the slave trade, and when they became independent, they said, you know what, we need to erase the darkness of that culture. So their government said, you know what, everybody will paint everything very, very bright colors, you know, and just very, very cheery. And it is. It's just a gorgeous. Even the homes, the personal homes, even if it's like a little shack like you would see over in Acuna, it's painted like this bright yellow or blue, or it's just gorgeous. Now, what makes this spectacular is coming out to, and this used to be Governor's Mansion, and it's now a couple of different restaurants. At night, it's just gorgeous. The colors just really stand out when they light them up. And you have all these different parties and clubs and restaurants all going. There's music everywhere, and it's just fun, food, frivolity. It's just great. And it's just so much fun. We 7 days just didn't seem like enough, although we actually spent only 6. Long story I may share next week. That ordeal, and may even share the travel agency we use that we will never, ever use again.
That's important.
It is important.
You got to throw it up there.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So, one last little segment. Personal plug for that I'm a fan of. I'm a big Windows Phone fan, for those who know me, and for those who follow our Facebook.
Here we go.
The exploits between Robert and I on Facebook. We go back and forth. I mean, it's good natured because we're both of the same mind. Whatever device works for you.
You know, I got honest to say this right now that we're on the subject. You know, when you see Robert and I going back and forth, you know, especially if you caught the, because I got an email on or a text message about the discussion we were having about diving. You know, I consider Robert one of my personal best friends, and I don't say that often, and he is one of my best friends, and I respect the fact that, you know, we can have these discussions and go back and forth. Yep. It's never personal.
Right.
I admire him.
Same here. I admire me too.
Yeah, I'm kidding. I know you do. But you know, at no time, whenever we're involved in these discussions, and though you know, you may see them and people think, oh my God, they're upset with each other or they're going back.
Yeah, text messages never do justice what's going on.
You know, a lot of times we may be actually at going head to head on a subject,
Right.
but it doesn't interfere with the relationship that we have. Because I
Not
got
at
a
all.
text message about, oh my God, were you all upset? Or you upset? No, at all. He understands what I think, and it's scary. It's actually really scary because there's times when we're like, we were thinking the exact same thing. So, I just needed to throw that out there because I did get a text message about the.
That's funny that somebody was concerned about our relationship.
Well, they thought that
well, no, the podcast just got started and now it's going down in flames.
And we're fighting, No, I
That's
just
great.
gotta say, we don't, and we do go head to head on some subjects. One of the ones that I'm scared to even discuss is politics, which is because I don't know anything about politics, so I won't even engage in that debate.
It's kind of like art. I don't know art, but I know what I like.
Yeah. So, but for those of you that did see what transpired today on Facebook, at no time were we like that. So please just calm down.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry. The podcast is not going to end just after it got started.
No,
we're good to go. We're good
no,
to go.
but I just had to say that I respect Robert, and I do, like, again, I consider him one of my closest friends. I don't have very many of those, and that's all I got to say.
Yeah. So, in the vein of things that we tend to spar over, even if it's
bring
just
up
totally,
the phone.
Got to bring up the phone. I'm a big Windows Phone fan. It's really had a hard time getting off the mark because they were originally released, the first versions of the phone, with a number of features not there, but I felt it had a lot of strengths to it that I preferred over the other other ecosystems, Android and iPhone. And I just hate Apple with a passion, so I just don't want to give them my money unless I absolutely have to. But I'll be the first to say, and Robert said that too, is ultimately whatever device is going to fit your need is what you need to stick with. But I think if it's your first time phone, don't just automatically think you have to get an Android, you have to get iPhone. Try all of them. See which one seems to give you what you need. Now, that being said, I've been a very, very much a fan of Windows Phone. I have not cut Microsoft any slack in the areas where they've totally missed it. I'm like, why is this not there? Or why have you practically buried the platform? And it took the partnership with Nokia or Nokia, depending on where you are and who you hear pronounce it. It took a partnership with them to finally light a fire. And so they've got a number of different initiatives that are really going on. And the Nokia or Nokia Lumia series of phones are really taking the market by storm overseas. They're just now starting to see their way here. I think you got the 710 that's on T-Mobile right now. I have a friend that at work, I heard the telltale sound of him getting an instant message, and I was like, oh, I know that sound. That's a Windows Phone. I asked him which one he had. It was the Lumia 710. I was like, this is a gorgeous phone. I really like the way it feels. But it's smaller than, I've got the Samsung Focus, and it's a 4-inch screen, which I really like. But then I started seeing, as part of CES broadcasted stuff, the Lumia 900 that AT&T is getting, and that is just a fantastic phone. It won the top awards at CES. It's just getting all sorts of rave reviews, and we've all been, those of us who've been waiting for this phone have been like, okay, when's AT&T going to announce it? When are they going to release it? Well, it finally is going to be coming out April 9th, right after Easter. So I'll probably be asking for either the day off or to come in late so I can cap out front, because I did talk to the AT&T folks here, and they do have some that they received ready to sell. But I'm really excited about that phone. It is a beautiful phone. It's a little bit larger than what I have. It's a 4.3 inch screen, not quite the size of the Titan. Or the Titan 2, which you saw and you were actually impressed with.
I was. I've had numerous devices, starting back all the way from the bag phone days, and the StarTech phones and Razor
Yep.
and everything else you can think of. Each phone that I've used has good points and bad points.
Yep.
BlackBerry phones are really good phones. A lot of people knock them; they don't like them. They're widely used in the business arena. They do have their business applications, email, text messages, things like that are phenomenal. The iPhone, I do have an iPhone, and I'm pro Mac, even though Robert doesn't like them. But at no time will you hear me. I will complain. There are issues, but I've come to realize that there are issues not with the phone, but with the network itself that the phone is using. They're just, it's like anything else. When you have a new device that's coming out and it's the hottest thing and everybody wants it.
Right.
It kills bandwidth, and it's just going to slow down the networks, especially if everybody's on it at the same time. It's there's just nothing you can do, and they're trying to fix those type of issues.
Right.
When I've had my Android devices, when I had T-Mobile, I never had any problems with it. It worked great. It did everything I needed it to do. I wanted to change, and we did. But when I went to AT&T to the store here in Del Rio, and one night I was just messing with the phones. It's like, we talk about gear, mess around, check to see what you like. I'm that way with phones,
Yeah.
I went in there and started messing with the Titan, and I was impressed. I really was. I was like,
that's
it's
a big phone.
It is. It's huge. I thought I was using a Galaxy Tab, but it was nice. It was fast. One little pet peeve that I had with it, it was a beautiful phone. It just did it. It only had a 16 gig internal memory, and no expansion port for additional memory. So that was one of the sour points for me. But aside from that, it was an awesome phone.
Yeah. So I'll be practically camped out at AT&T to get one of the.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah,
the new Nokia.
Yes.
Is it going to have an expansion, or is it only built-in memory?
No, you're not going to see that feature supported until Windows Phone 8 comes out at the end of the year.
Wow.
Because it's going to be based on the Windows 8 desktop.
Okay.
So you'll still see the same familiar live tile interface, etc. But what they've done is they've now graduated the platform to the Windows 8 kernel, or what they call the WinRT kernel. Mm-hmm. So we'll see, which of course that's just basically the computer. So you'll see all the hardware just going wild. As a matter of fact, Nokia has already talked about not just new phones that support that, but
so the phone will actually blue screen when you turn it on.
No, although I did see somebody wrote an app. I mean, talk about a frivolous app, but it's an app that actually will throw the BSOD, blue screen of death, on your Windows Phone, just if you're feeling nostalgic. But Nokia is actually coming out with a tablet. Now, if it's anything like the Lumia phone, I am on that puppy. A Windows 8 tablet from Nokia, I'm on that like white on rice, like cold on ice. Man,
there you
I'm gonna get that. By the way, the Lumia 900 is an LTE phone, even though we don't have that in Del Rio, and probably won't see it before your kids go to college.
Yeah, for about a millennium.
But once you travel to metropolitan areas that actually have LTE, it does support LTE.
Well, I'm kind of curious because I've heard that they are working on that here. I'm not really sure if they have.
I haven't even heard that, so you got one up on me on that.
Okay.
Speaking of that, have you been to the Taco Bell?
Yeah.
We finally had that today.
Really?
Yeah. Man, I missed the Burrito Supreme. That was so good.
Sandy showed up. She was assisting for a colleague that's been sick, and was assisting during the blood drive there at Walmart today. And calls me and says, "Are you hungry?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll take Taco Bell."
Yeah.
Because I figured it was going to be a stretch. She had gone the whole day without eating.
Yeah.
And sure enough, she calls me and she says, "I'm in line." So then she calls me with a real little silly voice and says, I have Taco Bell. I'm like
quiero
2
Taco
blocks. I'm 2 blocks away. Open the door. Rush in, doesn't even get drinks ready or anything. He just starts eating the tacos, and they were
That's
good.
hilarious.
They were good.
So we're glad to see that finally opening back up.
Yeah, thanks to the Cruisenbergers.
Yes, good job, good job.
Excellent.
All right, so we're running a little late, but that's okay.
Because we own the show, we can do
That's
whatever
right, we
we
can do
want.
what we want. That's the beauty of podcasting. You know, we don't have commercials, although wouldn't mind sponsors, but oh,
Yeah. You got
It's like-
we didn't.
for
we
those
didn't-
who hung this long, a shameless plug. One of the things that you deal with, one of the issues you may deal with as a diver, is a fogged up mask. And of course, there's nothing more annoying than to have to clear that out at 65 feet. What better way to prevent that from happening than using Sea Gold? That's right, Sea Gold. It's a wonderful product. Now, my shameless plug. I do like that stuff. A friend of mine referred to himself as having good quality spit, which I don't. So this Sea Gold is like it has the consistency of like a hair gel, and you just put it on the lens of your mask, smear it across there, and then kind of rinse it out a little bit. And it creates a nice film across the mask, so that anytime you get exhale through your nose, which is typically how you build up condensation in your mask, it doesn't create a fog. It doesn't create that condensation. So I really like this stuff. You can try a number of different things. People spit in their masks. Some people use shampoo or dishwashing liquid. A number of different things. I like this because I can get like 2 or 3 dives out of one application. So, Sea Gold, for those of you who are looking for just one more thing to try to keep the fogging out of your mask. You don't have to be a diver to use it. You can also use it if you use it for snorkeling or that kind of thing. So, we've got past a note. Oh, tried to chat, but well, maybe it's not working correctly. So, we'll have to look into that. Again, this is new technology and for us, and so we're getting to learn the ropes. So we'll try and figure out what was going on with the chat room. I was in it, but I didn't see anybody in it. So we'll see what went on. Thank you all for watching. Appreciate it. We will see you next week, 8 o'clock, Saturday evening, for another episode of Two Guys Who Dive. See ya.